a small village nestled by the edge of a vast open sea, there lived a fisherman named Omar. The village was quiet, with simple homes made of wood and stone, where the scent of the salty air mixed with the sounds of waves crashing against the shore. Omar had lived here for most of his life. He knew the sea well, its calmness and its dangers, and he made a living by going out every day in his boat to catch fish. His hands were rough from years of working with ropes, nets, and fish, but his heart was soft and caring. Omar had 2 children, Ali and Noor. They were bright and full of curiosity. Ali, the older of the 2, was always asking questions about the sea and the creatures that lived in it. Noor, his younger sister, loved to draw pictures in the sand, often sketching the boats, fish, and birds that surrounded their village. They were a happy family, their days filled with laughter and stories, but their happiness began to fade when their mother, Amina, became very sick. Amina was kind and gentle, always looking after her family with a smile, even in her sickness. She and Omar had been married for many years, and though she had grown weak, her love for her children was as strong as ever. Ali and Noor would stay by her side day after day, holding her hands and listening to her stories. Remember, she would tell them softly when they asked about the sea. When you feel lost or alone, look to the sea. It will remind you that there is always a way. Be kind, be brave, and never forget that love is all around you. But as the days passed, Amina's health continued to decline, and one evening, as the sun set over the horizon, she took her last breath. Ali and Noor were devastated. They held each other tightly, feeling as if the world had come to an end. Omar, too, was broken-hearted. He missed Amina deeply, but he knew he had to be strong for his children. The days that followed were filled with sadness, and though they tried to find comfort in one another, the house felt empty without her. After months of mourning, Omar knew he had to keep moving forward for the sake of Ali and Noor. The fishing business was hard, and it was even harder for him to manage everything alone. He loved his children dearly, but he was struggling. The loneliness began to weigh on him, and he decided it was time to marry again. He believed that having a new wife might bring some joy back into their lives. Omar married a woman named Lena. She was from the same village and had 2 children of her own, Rami and Layla. Omar hoped that the children would become close and that they would help each other heal from the loss of Amina. But things didn't turn out the way Omar had hoped. Lena was beautiful and charming, and at first, she seemed to care for Omar and his children. She would smile and try to be kind, but there was something about her that felt cold. Ali and Noor quickly realized that Lena treated them differently from her own children. She would give Rami and Layla the best portions of food, while Ali and Noor were left with scraps. Sometimes, when Omar was out at sea, they would go to bed hungry, their stomachs aching. They tried to tell themselves that it was just the way things were, but deep down, they felt rejected and unloved. Rami and Layla, on the other hand, seemed to have everything they wanted. They never went without food or attention. Ali and Noor watched them with longing eyes as they ate well, played happily, and seemed to have everything their hearts desired. The house, which had once been filled with laughter and warmth, now felt cold and lonely. One day, when the hunger and sadness seemed to have taken over, Ali and Noor decided to leave the house. They wandered down to the shore, where the sea stretched out before them, as vast and endless as their sorrow. They missed their mother terribly, and sometimes, when they felt lost or alone, they would sit by the water, listening to the waves and thinking of the words their mother had said to them. It was during one of these quiet moments that they met Hassan. He was an older fisherman, not much older than Omar, but with years of experience in his weathered hands and kind eyes. He was carrying a large fishing net, and as he walked along the beach, he noticed Ali and Noor sitting by the water, their heads down. "Why do you look so sad?" Hassan asked gently. Ali and Noor looked up, surprised to see someone had noticed them. They had grown used to being ignored, even in their own home, and for a moment, they didn't know what to say. But then they told Hassan about their mother, their father, and their stepmother, Lena. They explained how they were often hungry and how Lena always favored her own children, leaving them with little. Hassan listened carefully, nodding as they spoke. "You know," Hassan said after a pause, "I think your mother was right. The sea has a way of bringing hope to those who need it. Don't worry, children. I have plenty of food today. Take this." He reached into his bag and handed them some freshly caught fish. Ali and Noor were surprised but grateful. They took the fish and felt a warmth in their hearts they hadn't felt in a long time. It wasn't just the food. It was the kindness in Hassan's eyes. For the first time in a long time, they didn't feel alone. Hassan smiled at them. "You are always welcome to visit me here. I'll share my food with you whenever you need it. The sea is full of gifts, and you deserve to share in them." From that day on, Ali and Noor would sneak away from home to visit Hassan. He taught them how to fish, how to mend nets, and how to respect the sea. He didn't just feed them, he fed their spirits. With Hassan, they felt safe and loved, and they began to forget the hunger that had once gnawed at them. As time passed, Ali and Noor grew stronger and happier. Their cheeks filled out, and they seemed healthier than before. They didn't feel as hungry anymore, and the sadness that had once clouded their eyes began to fade. But as they became more joyful, something changed in Rami and Layla. They began to notice their step-siblings' improved condition. It wasn't just the food. They seemed more alive, more energetic, as if a weight had been lifted from them. Rami and Layla were curious. They knew their mother had always favored them, but now they were starting to feel that something was wrong. They decided to follow Ali and Noor one afternoon, keeping their distance so they wouldn't be seen. As they walked behind their step-siblings, they saw them heading toward the shore. They watched from a distance as Ali and Noor met Hassan by the water. Hassan handed them some food, and the three of them talked and laughed together. Rami and Layla were shocked. They had never seen their step-siblings so happy, and they realized they had been hiding something from their mother. When they returned home, Rami and Layla couldn't contain their curiosity. They told Lena what they had seen. At first, Lena didn't believe them. She couldn't understand why her stepchildren would go to someone else for help when they had her. But as she thought about it more, a feeling of jealousy began to stir inside her. She was the one who should be in control, not some fisherman. Lena had always been used to getting what she wanted, and now she saw an opportunity to take control. She approached Omar one evening when he returned from the sea. "We need help with the fishing," she said, her voice sweet but firm. "Why don't you ask Hassan to come and work for us? We could use more fish." Omar, who trusted Hassan and had always been grateful for his help, agreed. "That's a good idea," he said. "I'll ask him tomorrow." Hassan, though reluctant, agreed to work for Omar. He didn't want to refuse his old friend. But when he arrived at Omar's house, he quickly realized something was wrong. Lena was already making demands, telling him what he would do and how much fish he would catch. Hassan, knowing what she was like, agreed, but felt uneasy. Lena's plan was simple. She wanted all of Hassan's fish for herself, leaving none for Ali and Noor. She told Hassan that he would be paid for his work, but in truth, she never intended to share anything with her stepchildren. Hassan did his best to remain respectful, but it wasn't long before he saw through her manipulation. Hassan soon realized that Lena's intentions were not kind. She took all his fish and kept them for herself, refusing to give any to Ali and Noor. Hassan could see the pain in the children's eyes, but he couldn't say anything. He kept working, hoping that somehow things would change. One day, Hassan decided he had had enough. He began teaching Ali and Noor how to fish properly, showing them how to cast their nets and catch their own food. He didn't want them to rely on anyone, especially not someone like Lena. As the days passed, Ali and Noor became skilled at fishing, just like their mother had taught them. They no longer went hungry. They could stand on their own 2 feet, with the sea as their ally. End of first part.